Well, it's an exciting time for our organization. Obviously, a lot has happened very quickly with the move from Utica to Abbotsford. A lot of moving parts and from hirings and staff, and obviously we're deep into kind of getting close to draft and free agency. But to have this finally out for the fans in Abbotsford and the Canuck organization, it's a huge. This is a huge step for us. We're excited about having our American League affiliate right in our backyard. And I think we've spoken very often about the benefits of that, but it's a great step for our entire organization. Like I said, the Vancouver Canuck organization, City of Abbotsford, now the Abbotsford Canucks, and even the province of British Columbia.
And you talked about how it's been a complicated process. Can you talk about a little bit what that's been like for you personally, and what's still to do before guys actually hit the ice here?
Well, there wasn't really, as we made the decision kind of later in this season to make the move to Abbotsford. Usually there's a little bit of downtime at the end of the season, but as obviously we've transitioning a whole organization from upstate New York out to the Fraser Valley creates its challenges. A major part of that was establishing what of our staff was going to be able to make that move and who could and couldn't, and then a hiring process from there. Obviously, we've got front office decisions and things to make. We've got to basically reconfigure a building a little bit from a business standpoint and from operationally, from a dressing room and all these things. And so obviously there's been so many moving parts. I think the organization has done an outstanding job of prioritizing these things and getting them done as fast as we can. And in saying that, we've got a hockey team to build at the same time. AHL free agency starting on July 1, and with the draft and expansion, and obviously NHL free agency starting on the 28th. A lot of moving parts for the organization, but everybody's extremely excited about it.
We'll go next here to Patrick Williams, NHL.com.
Hi, Ryan. Thanks for doing this. Free agency is about 2 weeks away. Trying to restock the club. You want to make a good first impression, obviously, on the fans in Abbotsford. What do you think you might try to target in terms of building a veteran base there for the roster?
Well, I'm always big on a competitive environment. It makes for a strong organization. So whether we've got our team up top and our depth below has to be pushing. We have to have people below the line that hold accountability. It makes for a stronger organization. It helps develop your prospects, and it also helps you become or keep you in a competitive environment when you face injuries or adversity that comes with a big club throughout the course of a season. So there has been one kind of focus in what we're targeting and what we're trying to build, but it solves a lot of issues, I think, from our big club to our team below, a team that we want to win in an environment, a winning environment, like I've talked about, that helps develop players, whether they're ready to break through and become NHL players or they need some assistance in their development, people to guide them along in the first steps of their process. We've got a really key focus on what we're trying to accomplish coming up here, and I'm extremely excited about it and that the product that we will put forward in Abbotsford.
And then the follow-up to that is, obviously you're in the West now, but you're going to be a little bit far removed from some of the other teams in the division. How's that going to change some of the dynamics for the team as opposed to being in Utica where everybody was close by, but you were far away from the parent team?
Yeah, it does. Obviously, there's going to be more travel involved. We've had years in Utica where we had, anywhere from a dozen to 15 hotel nights the entire season. But within that, with the proximity, you do end up with a lot of 3-and-3s or 3 games in 2.5 days, traveling 3-4 hours throughout the night. And so I think we're going to have more overall travel. I think we will have less of a grind schedule-wise, 8 less games. I don't think people understand how much that can affect the schedule from 76 to 68. So I think is there obviously our proximity to our division, are we spending more time on an airplane or travel? First look at the schedule and what it could look like is not as daunting as I thought it may be. And so there's differences. I don't think one is necessarily better than the other, but I'm excited about, like I said, the lesser amount of games makes such a big difference of when you're piecing together a schedule. I don't think we will lose as much practice time as I anticipated, which for me is as important as anything in the American Hockey League. And that was the one thing about, like you said, playing in the East is you spend a lot of time back in your own bed, which allows you to have quality practices. And that's very important to me because I'm all about our resources, what we're able to do throughout a long week of practice without our resources, with our skating and skills coaches. So I'm encouraged. There is going to be more travel, but less games, and we certainly will make it work.
We'll take our next question from Daniel Wagner with Vancouver is Awesome.
Hi, Ryan. Just wanted to ask about the role of the Sedins. It's been obviously talked about that they will play a role with the AHL affiliate. Do you have any more information about what that role might look like? And are you excited to work directly with the Sedins in this way?
Well, 100%. I mean, I was teammates with them from 2008 to 2010. They're friends, people that I highly respect, regardless of what they accomplished on the ice. And we can speak about that for days. I respect them even more as people and how they treated people. And I say it all the time, it's my responsibility to create a culture and environment and resources that help everybody, not just our players, but our staff become better at what they do. And these are two of the greatest resources that I could ask for. So we've talked about their involvement will obviously be coming into practice and being around our coaching staff, being available to grab a player, to talk to a player, to watch games, to evaluate players, evaluate prospects. And so I'm going to welcome their opinions on anything and everything. And I'm excited just to get back in a room with them, talking hockey, talking people, talking about a process and culture that they know is very important to me. And so for me, this is a home run, and I couldn't be more fortunate to have them on board.
And you've talked about how getting outreach from agents who want their players to play in Abbotsford, that it's been like astonishing compared to Utica. What do you think it is that makes these players want to be a part of what you're doing in Abbotsford?
Yeah, and I don't say in compared to Utica, because there was a lot of players that wanted to play in Utica and loved that environment. I think it's, when you get Western Canadians or BC players that have been brought up in BC, they have a connection to the Canuck organization. They were at one point sure fans and always wanted to be drafted or played for. So it's been exciting in that regard of players wanting to come, understanding what we're building in Abbotsford and as the Canuck organization. And I think they see that as a great opportunity. And for some of them to play back in Canada is something I always wanted to do and was fortunate to do to play for the Canucks. And knowing that when your farm team is 45 minutes to an hour down the road, there's opportunity. Like I said, it's great for us to be able to reward somebody that eventually has kicked the door down, that we don't have to worry about how are we going to get them there? Is he going to be available to play tomorrow night? And is he even going to be capable after spending 10 hours on an airplane? And so those are things that now kind of are removed off the table, and we can hold players in Vancouver accountable and reward players in Abbotsford that deserve the opportunity.
Okay, we're going to try reconnecting with Patrick Johnston from Post Media now. We'll see, Patrick, if we can hear you.
Can we hear me now?
Sounds great.
Awesome. Ryan, just in terms of building out the actual hockey operations and all that, you are as reconfirmed as the GM. How much is it just picking up what was in Utica and putting down over here, and how much is there really involved with hiring new people and sort of reestablishing new patterns, especially with the Canucks themselves being so close?
Well, like I said, it took me a while in Utica to build the staff exactly how I wanted it. For me, that is important as a process for my responsibilities to make sure that every person that is in that dressing room on a daily basis for my staff understands our opportunity to develop every day and why we are there. And so the way they approach their positions, the energy that they bring into a room every day is utterly important to me. So in moving that staff to Abbotsford, there were challenges of people with young children that weren't able to make the move. And so that was an important first step for me, was how do I replace these people with people that I know are going to continue and understand what our culture is about. And so it's not something that was easily done. We put a lot into it. We were diligent in who we were bringing in and why we were bringing them in. But I feel, hopefully by the end of this week, you guys will be aware of who those people are. But, like I said, I talk about resources. My coaching staff is the biggest resource I have in player development, and the job that they do, I feel incredibly fortunate to have them, most of them coming with me to do this, because I wouldn't want to do it without them. That's how good they are. And so it's been, Patrick, there's been a lot that's gone into this, and we still have a little bit more work to do, but it hasn't been as easy of just picking it up and putting it down, and also understanding we're in a new environment. We're in a different market with a different expectation, and we're all extremely excited about that.
And just looking at last year, it was such an unusual situation. The dual affiliation, were there things you learned from the Blues that kind of said, hey, that's interesting, I'm going to steal that?
I think it was one of the great challenges for me, again, was establishing very early of inviting their coaching staff in, knowing there was a mix of players, obviously with their GM and Kevin McDonald. It was a challenge for me in the sense of my one major accomplishment in order to get the utmost for the Vancouver Canuck organization and the St. Louis Blues organization was creating one team. And you can imagine how much of a challenge that would be, just throwing staffs together, throwing players together. And it was more than just a delivery of, hey, this is what we want to do. We really had to spend a lot of time nurturing that and making sure that everybody that came in that wasn't a part of our staff had a responsibility. We had to go out of our way to do things to, how do we make these players that understand they're coming into our organization, all our culture, how do we make them feel like they are absolutely a part of this just as our own? And I felt like we accomplished that very early. I told our group after our last game in the dressing to watch them 10 days in have a Vancouver Canuck player get a hit from behind and having a St. Louis Blues player come over to defend them. I felt like as a group, as two organizations, we did a great job. Our coaching staff did a fantastic job of bringing these guys in. And that was a huge accomplishment. And I think of Patrick, if we hadn't played that season, or for some reason the AHL hadn't happened for both organizations, what we would have missed on would have been immense. And you saw players develop and players grow on both sides and go up and have impacts on the organization. So it was an incredibly successful season, in my opinion, in a very difficult time.
Okay, we have one more hand raised at the moment, and that's Chris Faber from Canucks Army.
Hey, Ryan, I wanted to ask, obviously, with the movement now to Abbotsford, there's going to be a lot of player changeover. Is this monumentally different than what it is in a normal year where you're just bringing back players to Utica in the past few years here?
Maybe a little bit. You're always faced with recreating your depth a little bit, or what that looks like, what it filters down, the decisions we make in Vancouver, and what that looks like below. And understanding that there is a little bit of a rebuild, or something that we are trying to accomplish within our entire organization. Spoken on that is making sure we have the most competitive environment we can that holds everybody accountable with their positions. There will not be jobs handed out. I think going into training camp, that's what Travis Green wants. I know Jim Benning and I have talked about the stronger we are below the line, the more accountability we have as an organization, but also more importantly, I think, is that enduring injuries and those things that come along with our big club, when we have players that can come up and help us navigate through those whether it's a stretch of 5 to 10 games of adversity, that we are keeping ourselves in a position to be a playoff team and a challenging team. And that's something we've really talked about and focused on. So I'm excited. The work that's already been done, our pro scouts do a fantastic job. we're prepared and excited to unfold things in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And we haven't really gotten an opportunity here in Vancouver to see what Trent Cole is like in the community, but we've heard a lot of positive things from the Utica media and the Utica radio station over there. What are we going to get with Trent Cole here now in Abbotsford?
Well, I've said this, my role as GM and also in the development side of it, he's my biggest resource. He and I see very eye to eye on what we try to accomplish. We don't let a day go by without it being an opportunity to improve players and give them an opportunity to have guidance, knowledge, and teaching that we feel is important in their development. And so he's an incredibly hard worker, incredible knowledge. He's got the pedigree of coming through, which was utterly important to me, of the Tampa organization. He's been inside those walls, and we all know what has been done there. He's consistent through winning and losing. He comes back with a focus each day to go, okay, how do we get better? How does each player get better? We have daily conversations of attainable things that we want to see from each player, whether they're prospects. We take a lot of pride in having players that come to us maybe looking for a second opportunity, of having them having career years, rejuvenating their opportunities to get to the NHL. And so, this market is going to see a coach that, like I said, is incredibly hardworking, incredibly prepared, very personable, and has a focus on developing players to play in the National Hockey League. And he's done a fantastic job so far. And I feel good about the team that we're going to put on the ice. People are really going to see how good he is.
Okay, we have time for a couple more questions here. We'll go next to Steve Erickson with Eastlink TV. Steve, I believe you're just on mute there.
Now, there. Thank you very much. Sorry, Marcus. Good morning, Ryan, and congratulations on your appointment and all the success down the road. I know success is imperative for you. When you look at your career, you've played over 701 games exactly in the NHL. You know the success for the communities that you've played in growing up playing minor hockey. Even in the Stanley Cup Finals, we had young players, or players now, adult men, playing in the National Hockey League from various communities, whether it's Anaheim Lake for Carey Price or Brendan Gallagher from Delta. How tough will it be, or will you approach the community to get the young minor hockey players involved in your program to teach them what the game's about and develop future players for the game?
Well, it's utterly important, and I understand that we're only as good as the strength of our community and the support. And how you do that is you make eye contact with people. You're in the community, shaking hands. You make the community feel a part of your organization, and it's amazing what you do of drawing young fans in the building. Young fans draw on their parents, and young fans get people involved in the game. So it's something that we heavily focused on in Utica, was making sure that we were part of community, engaging these fans, and it's only utterly important in Abbotsford to build a not just a flash in the pan fan base, but something that lasts a long time. And I think that's something we will focus on. We will have community involvement with the local hockey program that is obviously a very good one as is. And anything we can do to support that, or support the people of the community, that's going to be of the utmost importance. And something that we talk about even in the dressing room is you play for your family, you play for the name on your back, you play for the love of the game, but you also play for the community that you're in that supports you. And it's important to us how we treat them, and the professionalism that we have around them when we are in the community is utterly important to me, and something that we'll obviously be focused on.
And as you know, lastly, as you know, today's amateurs are tomorrow's pros. If you can give the young hockey players of today one bit of advice to follow them in their career, what would you give them, and how would you tell them?
Well, I mean, if you're talking youth, it's a very open-ended question. I could probably go on and on, but I think we live in an environment where we want immediate gratification all the time, and that's not necessarily the case. But to observe people around you, use your resources, use your coaching staff. It's important to listen to the people around you, that the people who've been through it, and your work ethic at the end of the day, a never quit attitude, that'll what will reward you at the end of the day. The NHL is not full of the best players in the world. It's full of the players that would never say no, that found ways to adapt themselves. There's a lot of players in the NHL that just scored 15 goals everywhere they were, every level they went to, but they eventually found a way to score 15 goals in the NHL too. And that's not being the most skilled. That's being somebody that was ruthless and diligent in their work ethic and never said no.
Okay, we have time for one last question here. We'll return to Daniel Wagner with Vancouver is Awesome.
Ryan, Canucks fans haven't had a chance to watch a lot of their prospects in person because of the distance between the affiliate and the organization. Are there prospects that you're excited for Canucks fans to see in person where they might see something that they would otherwise miss if they just see a highlight or see a player's point totals? Are there prospects that you think the fans will get a better picture of who they are and who they could potentially be?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of, I would say, new prospects coming in as far as first-year pros, but I think we've got some players that I don't want to single out because I think all of them have a chance to come make our hockey team in Vancouver. So to know who exactly may end up in Abbotsford at the end of the day, not sure. But I think for our fans to be able to see the daily progressions, the game-to-game progressions, to be able to understand that putting up points or not putting up points in the American League isn't the be-all and end-all of the development process. There's a lot of players that evolve that eventually put up points but don't form the identity to become National Hockey League players. There are some players that maybe not as productive offensively in the American League, but you can see that they've got certain aspects to their game that you automatically know are going to translate into the NHL. So it's not just as simple as, well, who's producing points? They've deserved a shot. There's a lot more to it. And I think as our fans are able to see game in and game out, they'll have a better ability to identify that, as opposed to when we were cross country and maybe seeing highlights or just seeing stats on paper. It doesn't always do it justice.